There's a lot of misconception about what spiritual awakening is, and it helps to know the difference between an awakening and a spiritual awakening. So, an awakening, whether it's spiritual or not, is the realization that something is different than what you thought it was. It's an expansion of consciousness. So, this can happen anytime someone has a new experience. So, going into high school, going into college, you realize how things are different. So, it can be an awakening, traveling to a different country. We can even have awakenings when it comes to changing things that we haven't experienced before, such as changing our diet, changing our routine, our physical routine. So if you're changing your diet from eating fast food to somewhat healthier foods or lighter foods, you're going to have an awakening of how your body feels and how maybe even how cheaper it is. So you're going to have a variety of awakenings, of realizations of what the world is actually like compared to what you thought it was. And then you can also have an awakening when it comes to being sedentary most of your life and then adopting walking, adopting an exercise routine. You're going to have a realization or an awakening of how your body feels. And it's going to be different than the perspective that you held before you started that routine. So that's really all an awakening is. It's just a realization or expansion of consciousness. But a spiritual awakening is related to the belief of spirituality, which is basically believing that our souls, our energy continues past this lifetime and maybe even previous to this lifetime. So spirituality is the adoption in believing that there is something more to this world outside of what's in front of us and what we can see and even what we experience. And even after our lifetime, we continue to exist in some way. So when we have a spiritual awakening, that means that what we are realizing, the conscious expansion that we're experiencing, has to do with spirituality. So if you're doing shadow work, that's going to be related to your spiritual growth. If you're even if you're building a business, I personally, as a business builder, I do see it as a very spiritual, related to my spirituality, because it has to do with the end goals of what I came here to do, and it will help me even after I leave this planet. So, so that's basically the difference between spiritual awakenings and awakenings. And a lot of people think that because you're having an awakening, it means that you're having a spiritual awakening. And that's not true. That's not true at all. And so another way to look at this is that when you look at personal development, there's so many personal development videos out there. When you look at the stuff that they teach in personal development, it's very similar to what they teach in spiritual growth. Spiritual growth. And so the reason why they're similar is because it's the same thing in this physical world. You're going to learn you're going to use the same techniques in this physical world. But the difference is that in personal development that is not spiritually based, this can be anything from like journaling, NLP. The difference is that it's all related. Personal development is all related to the physical world. Whereas if you're doing this from a spiritual perspective, in the end, you're trying to achieve or step into your higher self. You have your goal is related to spirituality. So that's the difference between a spiritual awakening and an awakening. I think it's important to know that, because a lot of people like to say that someone is having a spiritual awakening, but it's only if it's related to spirituality and if they've even adopted the belief of spirituality. So there's a lot of awakenings that I've had that don't really have anything to do with spirituality, but it's just an expansion of consciousness. That's all it is. It's just a realization of something existing that you didn't realize was existing there before, including experiences. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. If you like what you hear, consider following me to learn more on animal communication, neuro-spirituality, and emotional energetics. Thank you.